This is a Blender Python tutorial where we'll be going over a Python script that imports an image sequence into the compositor. Hey, I'm Victor Stepanov. I'll be guiding you through this Blender Python tutorial. Recently, I was asked in another video where I explained how to import an image sequence into the sequence editor in Blender, how to do the same thing but only into the compositor window. So I decided to create a separate video explaining that. By the end of this video, we're going to create this node network right here. We're going to have an image node that's going to be a sequence. We're going to have two other nodes, a composite node and a viewer node. And all of this will be generated by a Python script. When this node network is set up, you'll be able to scrub through the frames of the animation in the compositor window. All right, without further ado, let's get started. To follow along at home, you would need to create a temp folder in your home folder and have another folder in that that's going to contain all your frames. I'll be using a folder called My Project, and that's going to contain the frames that I'll be importing as a sequence. I'm working on Windows today, but the code that I'll be showing you will work on Mac and Linux. You just need to create these two folders in your home folder. So it's the temp folder, and then inside that, you'll have the My Projects folder, and you should be good to go. Okay, I've opened up Blender, and now I'm gonna edit my workspace so I can write some Python code. And I'm gonna actually use the compositing workspace. I usually use the scripting workspace, but since we're gonna be working in the compositor, it's gonna be probably easier to set up our workspace there. I'm gonna add a text edit window. I'm gonna add an interactive Python console and an Python info window. So this is going to be the text editor. I'm going to set the interactive Python console right here. And I'm going to set the info window right here. All right, I'm going to hide a bit of that. And it's a bit cramped here, but hopefully we will manage. To start things off, I'm going to hit the new button in the text window right here, the text editor window, and I'm going to paste in some starter code. You can either pause the video now and just copy down the code, or I also provided a link in the description under start code. You can open that link in your favorite browser, hit raw, select the code, and then copy it into the text editor window in Blender. So let's hide a bit of that so you can see the full, so yeah, that's the full line if you're copying down from the video. So this right here is going to be the path to the folder that has your frames. And I'm using pathlib right here, and I'm using the home folder. And we're gonna have the temp folder, as I said, and then my project folder. So this right here should be enough for you to get the files on Linux and Mac as well. If I just hit the run button right here, and nothing will happen because the script is doing literally nothing. It just has this path right here that it's creating and passing it into the function that's right here and doing nothing with that. All right, let's get started with the script. The very first thing that I want to do is get a full list of all the frames I have in the folder that I'm passing into our function. And to do that, I'm going to be using the OS module, and there's a nice function in that called listdir, and let me show you that right here in the interactive Python console. First, I'm going to import pathlib, and then I'm going to grab the path right here that we're creating. So now this is pointing to the path where my frames are, and now I need to import OS. So that's there, and next I need to use the listdir function. And that is it, and I'm going to use, so I hit tab and it gives me this nice documentation. You can read that if you're interested for more details. And I'm going to use the variable that I created just a couple lines above. And I hit enter, and you can see that I have a number of frames. I'm just scrolling up It might look a bit weird, but that's just a formatting that we are given by the interactive Python console. So as soon as I run this, this gives me a list of all the file names in this folder. I want to also make sure that I'm getting the PNG files. That way that this folder might contain other files, and I want to make sure that I only get the frames. And to do this, I'm going to be looping over all of that in a function. I'll create a separate function right here to get all those files and filter them out. So this is the function that I created. This is the name. I'm getting the image files. I'm providing a path, and I also have an optional keyword argument that defines what extension of the images I'll be looking for. In this particular case, I'll be looking for some PNGs. If you have other frames, if you have frames in some other format, you can just add an extra argument and write that extension. Very first thing, I'm creating a list of images that will be returning right here. And I'm creating a for loop and looping over all the files. Remember, we printed out all the files in the interactive Python console, and we're going to be going one by one through each of the file names there. And we're going to be checking that that file name ends with the extension, right? So with this, we're filtering. So if this right here is true, we're going to be appending to the list. So we're going to be adding the name to that list. And the very last thing that we want to make sure is we want to sort this. So maybe this function will return the files in some particular order. I want to double check that we're not going to have a frame that's out of order. So this is, with this, I'm making sure that all the frame names are sorted. And finally, I'm just printing this list out, so it'll be nicely formatted with one name on each line instead of what you saw in the interactive Python console. I'm using this pprint, so pretty print Python module, and I actually need to import this. So up here, I'm importing that, and I also need to import the OS module. All right, so that is done. I'll just copy this like so. This looks like it should work. I'm gonna test it out. I'm gonna run it. Looks like there were no issues while we were running the script, and I'll open the console window. On Windows, it's under Window Toggle System Console. On Mac and Linux, I've created a separate video for you where you'll need to do a couple extra steps to get this window. So this is the result that you should see, and it's a list of all the frames nicely formatted, right? One name on each line, so you can make it a bit more readable. That is what is being printed out right here. And all right, so now we have a list of files that we can work with. Now that we have the files that we want to work with, let's start working with the Compositor panel itself. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to click this Use Nodes checkbox, and this will start adding nodes into the compositing node tree. And if we look down here in the info panel, this right here, this code is exactly pressing that checkbox right here. And I'm gonna just add it down here. I'm actually going to create a separate variable for the scene, like so. You don't have to do this, but I just like to keep it more readable, right? It's just the same thing as this, right? I just want to make it a bit shorter, like so. And you notice that as soon as I hit the Use Nodes checkbox, we got a couple of nodes here. And I don't want these nodes. I'll add, for example, the composite node on with some Python code, and I just want to have a blank slate to start with. So I'll define a new function right here that will clear this node tree and allow us to work with a blank slate. So I know that I can clear all the nodes using this particular command. So it's the context scene, node tree, nodes, and then clear. I've hidden it under a more readable function called remove compositor nodes. And let's just put it right here, right after we start to use the nodes in the compositor window. Okay, so this should check this if it's not checked, and then remove the nodes as soon as I run our script. So let's do that. And as soon as I run our script, there are no nodes in the compositor node tree. That's great, exactly what I was looking for. The next thing that I want to do is I want to start adding nodes into the compositor node tree. And by hand, you would hit Shift A and then search for a given node that you want to input, for example, the image node. But with Python, it will be quite different. You need to run a command to add a particular node. So let's go into the interactive Python console. Right here, I'm going to scroll all the way down and then paste in the command for adding new nodes. And here's the command. So we have the scene, the node tree, and the given nodes of that node tree. And to add a new compositor node, I need to call this new function right here. I'll hit tab to get some documentation, and I'll need to provide a type so Blender knows what node I want. Unfortunately, it's not directly like human readable as, oh, I just want the image node. We would need to go into Blender's documentation and look up all the types that we have available to us. So here is the documentation. I'll provide a link in the description. And we're looking under the compositor node. And here are all the types of nodes that you can add into the compositor. And they all have a particular type. For example, I want compositor node image, and this will be adding the image node into the compositor window. So let's just select that, and then let's go back. Let's actually remove this, and then add this type. I'll add quotes to make it a string, and then let's hit enter and see what happens. And we can go into the center of the node tree, and there you go. Here is that image. We can just move it again. I'll hit the up arrow to repeat the previous command, and then hit enter to get another node into the network. Okay, now let me put these commands into a separate function, and we can start working on adding the rest of the compositor nodes. All right, here is the function. Let me move this aside. And so I created a new function, add compositor nodes. I've added a documentation string to make sure that I remember where exactly I got these types. I've created a new variable for the scene. I've created a new variable for the composite node tree. And then I've created 3 new nodes. So the image node, the composite node, and the viewer node. And I'm using the particular types that I found in the documentation that I just showed you. So now let's call this function right after we clear the nodes in the compositor. Okay, now let's run. As soon as I run this code, I'll get these 3 nodes in the compositor window. And you can see as soon as I ran the script, I have these 3 nodes right here. So the image, the viewer, and the composite. And now that I have this, now let's link them all up together. So we need to do this linking, not by hand, but with a Python script. So we'll be creating links down below right here. But actually, before I do that, let me move these nodes so we can see the links. I'm going to move these into some other location so you'll see that something changed. And I've just used the reference to the composite node. I know that the composite node, or any node, has a location property and has an X and a Y. So the image node I'm not touching. It's just going to be right in the middle of our node tree. The composite node, we're just going to move on the X 200 units. And the same thing for the viewer node. We're going to move it on the X 200 and then minus 200 on the Y. So everything has its own place. All right, let's run the script. And you can see that now we have these three nodes set up in a way that is more readable. Okay, now we can finally create the links. Here's the code for creating the links. So I'm using the compositor node tree variable, and I'm accessing the links and creating a new link between the image node and the composite node. I'm using the output of the image node called image, and I'm using the input of the composite node called image as well. So I'm just connecting these, and the same thing goes with the image node and the viewer node. So now let's run our script, and as soon as we run our script, we're going to see these links appear. And look at that, now we have all the nodes connected. Now that we have the nodes set up, let's start adding the sequence of images itself. And to do that, I'm just going to actually do this by hand to get the correct command. And I'm going to hit open right here. And I'm going to go into my project folder, and I'm just going to select like 12 of these images. It doesn't really matter how many, I just want the command. So I'm going to hit open image. And now we have a sequence of images right here selected. See, instead of a single image, we have a sequence, right? And let's take a closer look at the command that was generated. So let's open that. And we have this really big, long command. Let's put it into the interactive Python console. And let's take a closer look. We have a file path keyword. This is selecting the very first image. Actually, I can drop this, meaning that I won't use this particular parameter. I do need the directory, which tells Blender which folder the files are going to be located in. And I also will be using this files keyword arg, which contains a list of dictionaries. And the dictionary is a name and the name of the file, right? So the key is the name and the value is the name of the file on disk. I'm going to hit enter just to make sure that I have this command in the interactive Python console. The one thing this has is probably a bug in Blender, maybe not. If you know exactly why this has a dictionary with two similar keys, right? This is going to be actually a single just name and this, because dictionaries don't allow keys with the same value, right? So this is going to be just this. So if I delete that, so we should see something like this, right? So this is the same thing as this, right? So I don't really know why Blender is giving us command with this. So the thing that I need to do here is, remember we got a list of file names. I need to create this particular list right here of name and then file name. So let's do just that. All right, let me copy this command right here and then go into the script. And right here, I'll paste in that command. And again, as I said, we don't really need this file path. We need the directory. That's going to be this image folder path. We'll create this list in just a bit. And actually, I believe I don't need any of the other arguments. So I'll be creating this keyword argument in just a minute. Okay, so I'm creating a list and I'm looping over all the image names that we filtered, remember, in this function. And I'm creating the list of dictionaries with the name and the image name itself that's on disk. And now I need to just pass this into the open image operator. Now let's run this script. And it deleted everything from the compositing node tree. That's fine. But we are interested in what is located in the image data. And we can take a look into the interactive Python console under BPY data and images. And in particular, there are a number of images here. It's the render result, viewer node, and the frame 001 PNG. So that is exactly what we were just importing, and we're going to be using this particular image. So under the hood, Blender has the image data type, which can be a single image or a sequence of images. And in particular, this is representing a sequence of images. And now we're going to be connecting the sequence of images to the image node through Python. And one thing to note is the name of that image data is referencing the very first frame. We're going to be using that to retrieve our image sequence. So now I'm at the very end of the import image sequence into the compositor, and right before I call the add compositor nodes, I'm retrieving the name of the very first image, right? Everything, all the indexes of Python start with 0, so this is the first name, and then I'm retrieving that sequence using the name, so this is now a variable referencing our sequence. If you have a better way to retrieve the sequence that we added with this operator up here, I'd be happy to know, but I personally don't really like this kind of tying to the image name. Right? Maybe this could change in a future release of Blender, right? And this will break. So a bit skeptical about the usage of this, but I haven't come up with a better solution. So if you know a better way, please share in the comments. And I also need the duration. So when we add an image sequence into the compositor, we'll need to set the number of frames that sequence has. So we'll pass in the sequence and the duration. So now these are the two parameters that we're passing in right here. Move this a bit. And looking into the documentation of Blender, I'm looking for the frame duration, right? That's one of the properties that you could set on the image node. And also I need to set the image right here. So knowing the names that I need to use, I'll put that in the code. So I'm finding my image node, and now I need to add those two properties like so. So I have the reference to my node, and I'm setting the image and the frame duration. And those are the two parameters that I passed into this function. And if you're learning something new or just enjoying this tutorial, make sure to hit the like button on this video so I can understand to make more content like this. Okay, now this is set up. Let's run our script. All right, look at that. We have our three nodes. They're all hooked up. We have our frame sequence right here, and we can start scrubbing and seeing the results in the background. All right. And the final thing that I want to do here is I want to make sure that the frame duration or the final frame in the current scene that I'm working on is actually equal to the length of the frames that I imported. For example, the last frame here is frame 250, and that is not the final frame of my animation that I imported. We have 360 frames here. And the same thing goes with the resolution of the scene. So the scene right here is 1920 by 1080. And I know my frames that I rendered were 1080 by 1080. So let's make sure that our Python script sets that as well. So when we hit render after we've worked on the compositing of our sequence, you're going to render out the animation in the way that you want it to. All right, let's look into that. Right under adding all the nodes into the compositor, I'm going to add those two final things. And so those two things are the duration. So I'm going to use the scene and frame end that sets the last frame. And that's going to be the duration. So the length, the number of images that we've imported. And also we can look into the size of the sequence, so that will contain the width and the height of a frame that we imported. And we're going to set the render resolution on the Y and on the X, and that should be it. So let's run the script. And we can see straight away that the resolution was updated correctly. And now we can scroll and see that now we have more frames to work with. And actually, I almost forgot, there's actually a third thing that we need to set as well, and that's the frame rate, right? And you don't want the frame rate off. So let's just set this and go into the info panel right here. Scroll all the way down and we should see that frame rate getting set. Yes, yeah, here we go. So let's set that again. We can replace this. And actually, let me move this into the main function. So I want to define it right here as a parameter. So I'm passing it in right here. So let's move this out of the way. So this is a parameter into the import image sequence into Compositor. And here is that function definition. So FPS, and instead of this hard coded 30, it's going to be FPS. It's going to be defined right here. Yeah, let's make sure that this works. I'm going to set it to 25 and let's rerun the script. And all right, that updated the frame rate right away. You'll find a link in the description to this final code so you can check it out if you had any issues while following along. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and for more tutorials like this, make sure to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.